I'd gotten used to mornings like this. Quiet, predictable, maybe even a little boring. Coffee in my favorite chipped mug, eggs barely warm on a chipped plate, and the hum of the dishwasher in the background. The light spilled through the blinds just right, soft on the counter. It should have felt peaceful, maybe even grateful. But there was a kind of weariness you carry alone that even silence couldn't soothe. Lately, Tom, my husband, had been more of a shadow than a presence. Home, but not really here. Conversations were short, eye contact rare. His family, especially his sister Rachel, had grown more distant too. At dinners, there were these sideways glances, quiet whispers that stopped when I walked in. I'd ignored it. That's what you do when you're the peacemaker. You keep everyone comfortable, even when you're quietly unraveling. There'd been signs, I just didn't want to see them. A missed call from Rachel last week. A vague comment at Sunday dinner about people knowing when they've overstayed. And now, this morning, as I sat there poking at toast, my phone buzzed. I picked it up, just Rachel's name. I didn't expect the ground to shift under me in 8 words. "We need space from you. Please don't reach out anymore at all." I read it twice, maybe 3 times. Thought I'd misread it. Maybe it was a group message gone wrong. Maybe autocorrect played a cruel joke. But no. Every word sat still and sharp on the screen. My stomach dropped. A cold wave rolled through me. For a moment, I didn't move, just sat there staring. Hands trembling, jaw clenched tight. I could hear my own breath, slow, then quick, then nothing. What did I do? What did I miss? I tried to think back, replay everything. Had I said something? Offended her? Been too involved? I lifted my eyes to the window. The same morning light. But nothing felt the same anymore. I thought about calling Tom. Asking what the hell was going on. But I already knew the tone he'd take. Casual, dismissive, like it wasn't worth talking about. I sat there until the coffee turned cold. My reflection in the glass door stared back at me. Tired, confused, quietly broken. "Why me?" I whispered. That whisper stayed with me as I drifted through the house like a ghost. Every room held a memory, a moment, a piece of the life I thought I had. I walked past the calendar with family birthdays marked in pink ink, ones I never forgot. Past the fridge photos, smiling faces that suddenly felt like strangers. I thought of the holidays I planned, the rides I offered, the errands I ran, the gifts I wrapped with too much care. All those invisible tasks that held the family together. And for what? Last Thanksgiving flickered in my mind. Everyone posed for a photo after dinner. I'd been in the kitchen, cleaning up spilled wine. When I returned, the photo had already been taken. They said, "We didn't want to bother you." I smiled, said, "No worries." But it stung. Today, it felt like a warning sign I ignored. I sat on the edge of the bed, phone in hand. I typed a response, then deleted it. Typed another. Deleted again. What was I supposed to say? "I'm sorry for being here?" I didn't reply. I just sat there. The silence stretched through the day. Afternoon light turned amber. Shadows lengthened. Tom came home just after 6. He dropped his keys, kicked off his shoes, and headed straight to the fridge. No hello, no eye contact. I followed him into the kitchen, held up my phone. Rachel texted me. He paused, beer halfway to his lips. "Yeah?" I read it aloud. He sighed. "She's probably just stressed. You know how she gets." His voice was flat, practiced, rehearsed. "You knew," I said quietly. He didn't answer. "You knew she was going to send that." Still nothing. The space between us widened like a crack in a dam. I tried again. "Did you know?" He looked down. "I didn't think she actually would." I stepped back. That was it. He wasn't with me, not really. Maybe he hadn't been for a while. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just stopped expecting anything from him. Later that night, I sat by the window with a blanket around my shoulders. I thought about all the years I'd bent myself to fit into that family, smiling through discomfort, making excuses for their coldness. There's this phrase I once heard from an older woman in a church basement. She'd survived a bad marriage, raised 4 kids, buried one. You teach people how to treat you by what you allow. It echoed in my mind like a bell. I picked up my phone. No response to Rachel, no message to Tom. Instead, I started unfollowing them all, quietly, no drama, just gone. Then I opened a browser tab and searched for cabin rentals upstate. A solo trip. First one in years. No itinerary, no expectations. Just me. Sometimes silence isn't surrender. Sometimes it's a beginning. I woke up the next morning half expecting some kind of correction, maybe a follow-up text from Rachel, walking it back, or Tom bringing it up, awkward and mumbled, over coffee. But the only thing that greeted me was the sound of the coffee machine sputtering and the faint creak of the floorboards. My phone was silent. No messages, no missed calls, nothing. Tom stood in the kitchen in his usual spot, scrolling through something on his phone, sipping from his travel mug like it was any other Tuesday. "Got that meeting with Craig at 10, he said. His tone was too normal, too easy. I didn't reply. I just watched him, waited. Maybe he'd mention the message, maybe he'd check on me. He didn't. I didn't bring it up either. It was a test, really. And the silence between us answered it. This wasn't a misunderstanding. They meant every word. I spent the morning floating through chores, folding laundry, wiping down counters, pretending I was present. But inside, something was dropping, a dull, sinking sensation. That moment when hope doesn't die in a dramatic collapse, but fades, slowly, like a light dimming on its own. After lunch, I opened my laptop, mostly to distract myself. The usual scroll through social media, faces smiling, people baking, someone's cat on a bookshelf. Then I saw it. A picture tagged, "Sunday brunch with the best crew." Tom's mom, Rachel, her husband, even his cousin from out of town, all of them at some fancy little bistro laughing over mimosas and French toast. And me? Not there. My name wasn't even tagged, like I didn't exist. I scrolled through the comments. Rachel's stood out, sarcastic and sharp. Nice to finally have just family around. It hit harder than the original text. I opened the group chat we'd used for years, the Thompsons Plus. It had pictures of everyone on holiday, potluck invites, baby updates, but when I tapped it, nothing. "You were removed from this group." I sat still for a long minute. The room was quiet, but I could hear my own breath tightening. I remembered starting that chat. March 2020. "Hey everyone, thought we could all stay connected through this. Love you guys." I'd written that message with hope, with heart. Now I was erased from it, like I'd never mattered. All the little things I did, organizing Rachel's baby shower, booking tables for Thanksgiving dinner, calling their mother twice a week after her surgery, gone. As if none of it happened. Or worse, as if it didn't count. "They didn't just want space," I muttered. "They wanted me gone." No tears came. Not this time. What arrived instead was a kind of stillness, a cold, sober clarity. I stood, walked into the kitchen, and opened the fridge. Containers of leftovers from the last family dinner still sat there. Casseroles I made, pies no one ate. I tossed them, one by one. Didn't flinch. As I scrubbed down the counters, my mind replayed moments like a cruel slideshow, helping Dorothea with her medication schedule, picking up groceries for Rachel when she was on bed rest, picking out matching pajamas for Christmas Eve. Kindness weaponized. Memory turned sharp. A quote surfaced, something I'd heard long ago but never quite lived. "When people show you who they are, believe them the first time." Maya Angelou knew. I grabbed a pen and notepad from the drawer and began writing. Not a letter, a list. Every favor, every ride, every sacrifice. I listed them not for vengeance, but for clarity, for truth. I needed to see it. By the time I stopped, the page was full, and my hands were steady. That evening, Tom returned. He kicked off his shoes, dropped his bag, and flipped on the TV. I didn't say much, just waited. Then I turned my phone toward him and showed the photo from brunch. He glanced. "It's just brunch," he said. "You're reading too much into it." I didn't respond. I waited a beat, then added, "I was removed from the family chat." He blinked. "Really? Huh. I didn't know." But his fingers fidgeted with the remote, and he avoided my eyes. I kept my voice calm. "Maybe they need time, right?" He nodded, grateful for the easy out, but I wasn't done. "Or maybe," I said, "they think I'm too easy to erase." He had no answer for that. None. Later that night, I grabbed my coat and left the house. I needed space that I chose, a break that was mine. I walked into a bookstore a few blocks away. It smelled like paper and silence, clean, honest, quiet. I wandered until I found a journal. Black cover, no title. At checkout, I smiled for the first time that day. At home, I sat at the kitchen table and opened to the first page. I titled it, "No More Apologies." I began writing, not about them, but about me. My story, my version, no edits. I remembered something my mother used to say whenever people tried to pull her into their chaos: "You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to." That night, I turned off every family notification, group chats, birthdays, reminder lists. Silence had been forced on me before, but this silence, I chose it. I walked down Main Street in Colorado Springs like I used to when I was younger. Nothing fancy, just the rhythm of the sidewalks, the cracked pavement, the old brick church where Tom's parents renewed their vows years ago. I helped with that ceremony. I bought flowers. I smiled. I believed. This morning, the sun hit one of the stained glass windows. I paused there, looking up at how light fractured into colors across the sidewalk. A woman I recognized, neither cruel nor kind in her greeting, called out my name. "Silas, isn't that you?" She asked about Dorothea's recent gathering. "We missed you, Silas." She said it softly, like I wasn't supposed to hear. My smile felt borrowed, heavy. In that moment, I understood. What I thought was quiet was visible. They all saw. I felt small, then colder. How long has this been brewing? That night, I rummaged through boxes in the attic. Photo albums, letters, things boxed up when my mother-in-law passed. I found a thick album Tom made one Christmas. Faces, laughter. Then a letter, yellowed at the edges, tucked behind a photo of me standing by Rachel. It was from his mother, a year before she fell ill. She thanked me for showing up for the family, for being someone who pulls us together when we forget how to connect. Reading it, I felt something loosen in my chest. She saw me once. She appreciated me. But now, that gratitude seemed like a memory too fragile to hold. I read it over and over, wondering why praise turned into silence. That memory cracked open another. Christmas dinner when Dorothea spoke over me so loudly I spilled red wine. The room hushed when I froze. No one asked if I was okay. For years, I pushed those moments aside, pretended they were isolated, but they were a pattern. Back in the living room, I scribbled in my journal, not for proof, for clarity. I listed every time I was talked over, every decision made without me. Every kind act I offered that never came back. Internal voice ringing. It wasn't loud, it was quiet. Erosion. I saw I had spent so much energy fitting in, apologizing for breathing their air, proving I belonged, and they never gave me space. It wasn't me who didn't belong. It was them who never made room. The phone rang. Verity, my niece, her voice trembling, teenage inflection. "Aunt Silas, I forgot to tell you, I heard some things at school, about how people were talking." She paused. "I miss you. I didn't know I couldn't talk to you anymore." I offered quiet comfort, grateful she called, but suspicion pressed at me. Had she been told not to? Influence carries farther than we think. I decided then, I won't trust silence from people who should protect me. I'll take note of what's said in whispers. That night, I had a dream of my mother-in-law. She was standing at the top of hallway stairs. Silent. Disappointed. Wearing that blouse she always wore when she expected someone to speak up. I woke with my heart pounding. The nighttime air was cold. I couldn't sleep. I pulled out the guest list from the vow renewal event stored in my desk drawer. The title read, Planner, Dorothea Carlyle. My name missing, not even a mention. I stared at that typed word. Dorothea, Planner. They rewrote history. I leaned over the windowsill, whispering into the dark. You've been rewriting history for years. I drove to Denver that afternoon, feeling the weight of every breath. The invite was just dinner at Ben's place, but my gut tightened. I reviewed my phone. Screenshots of messages, the letter from mom-in-law, memories tucked into folders. I clasped the necklace she gave me years ago, not flashy, meaningful. It reminded me, I belong somewhere, even if it's not what I was shown. When I arrived, the house smelled like roasted garlic and wine. Dorothea greeted me with that practiced smile, wide, polished, familiar but hollow. There was laughter in the kitchen, soft voices I used to think were mine. She nodded me to a chair across from her, direct and deliberate. Wine glasses clinked, dinner plates passed. Dorothea said, "It's rare to see you these days." Rachel chipped in, "You've always kept to yourself, Silas." A cut. I held still. I said, "I've been busy." It sounded small, weak, but I meant it. I meant that I was building something no one else could see yet. After dinner, Dorothea asked me to step out into the backyard. "Fresh air," she said. I followed. The night was clear, crickets, the faint glow from the street lamp behind us. She stood facing me, calm. "You know," she said, "you've been poisoning the younger kids with your behavior. You're creating distance in the family, trying to manipulate sympathy." Her voice low, measured. "You don't accuse without checking your shots." She smiled. Nothing kind. Pretense and control wrapped together. I swallowed. I breathed. "I've been silent out of respect," I said. "Don't mistake that for weakness." The air between us felt colder than the night. Back inside, I didn't collapse. I centered. I spoke to Tom quietly. She said a lot. He blinked. No denial. No defense. "I didn't realize it was that bad," he said. Finally, some honesty. My heart ached, but hope flickered. Later, alone, I gathered evidence. Backed it up to the cloud. Drafted letters I wouldn't send yet. Listed what I would reveal, and what I'd hold until it mattered. I opened my journal, pen hovering, not for anger, for release, for clarity. I stirred my tea, watching steam curl. My knuckles white, I whispered, "They should have left me alone." I woke up that morning with a knot in my chest. The air in our bedroom felt thicker. Tom's side of the bed flat, still. My side restless. I remembered the backyard confrontation with Dorothea, her words still circling in my mind. "Don't mistake that for weakness." A warning disguised as civility. I had let small betrayals slide for too long. The night before, I overheard Tom on the phone in the living room. Low voice. I didn't mean to listen, but the words reached me anyway. "Just let her cool off. She'll come around." I froze. He was minimizing everything. All those silent moments, the excuses, the dismissal. He'd been playing both sides. I pulled an old sticky note from beneath stacks of papers. It still bore his words from weeks ago. "It's not worth the drama." I stared at that line. Let it burn. Not worth drama to him, but dignity to me. The next morning, I forced the conversation. At breakfast, I folded my hands. "Tom, we need to talk," I said. The calm in my voice surprised me. I've noticed a pattern, not of open hostility, but silence and excuses. He looked up, coffee cup trembling in his hand. I asked, "Did you ever stand up for me when they trashed my name?" He flinched. He tried to dodge with family peace. I didn't want to escalate. I stayed seated, heart pounding. "You wanted peace in the house," I said, "but war in my mind." No raised voice, just truth. His eyes softened. No denial. I saw my own reflection in his disbelief. I stood, firm. "I will no longer engage with your family unless respect is mutual." I can't keep swallowing my words. I won't play the good wife who lies for the sake of others' comfort. He said nothing, just looked stunned. I felt something shift inside. The tremble in my belly turned to fire. My voice had weight. That afternoon, Mrs. Collins from next door knocked. She'd heard things, at PTA, whispers. Silas being dramatic, she said. I didn't shrink. I replied calmly, drama is what happens when people stop pretending. Her nod was awkward, her eyes uncertain. I went inside, sat at my desk. I opened the laptop, researched emotional labor, generational toxicity. I read stories of women whose voices had been silenced until they reclaimed them. I told myself, I'm not alone. Later, I cleared out the gallery wall in the living room. Family portraits, smiling faces where I felt invisible. I removed the ones that reminded me of exclusion, replaced them with plants I bought, quotes I'd gathered, books I treasured. I wrote a letter to my younger self. You were never too much. They just were too little. I highlighted every false narrative, every time I was made the quiet one, the background, the afterthought. That evening, when Tom came in, I was in my bathroom. I placed a sticky note on the mirror. This was the last time I bit my tongue. My reflection stared back, steady. I thought about silence, how it had served them but destroyed me. Tears tried to surface, but I held them back. Because this wasn't about emotion now, it was about choice, power, inner truth. I woke up before dawn that morning, heart pounding so much I could feel it in my throat. I lay still for a moment, thinking of all the mornings I ignored the ache, of swallowing pride, grief, shame. Today was different. I dressed in something simple but clean, soft blouse, trousers I'd rarely wear but felt strong. I gathered the envelope with screenshots, the yellowed letter from mom-in-law, birthday invites, photos. I folded them all carefully into a black leather folder, zipped tight. Tom saw me packing silently. He asked, "Are you okay?" I said nothing. My distance felt like armor. The ride to Thaddeus's office was quiet, except for the hum of tires and traffic. I rehearsed lines in my head. I was removed from that chat. You defended them. I deserve to be treated as someone who belongs. I told myself those weren't confrontational, they were true. I wanted them to hear me, not ignore me. I watched streetlights fade, dawn light creep across the dashboard. I pulled into a small lot, the kind of lawyer's office with potted plants and a plaque by the door. I exhaled, stepped inside. Thaddeus Crowe greeted me with calm eyes. He was polite, leather chair, leather couch, certificates framed on the wall. I explained it all, the group chat, the brunch photo, the nameless gifts, the cold dinners, Rachel's messages, Dorothea's sharp words. I handed him the letter written by mom-in-law. I offered the birthday invite with my name gone. I showed him the photos where I was smiling but unseen. He asked questions. Do you have copies saved? Do you have witnesses who were present? He nodded, absorbing, patient. I felt the weight of explanation. My story laid out like pieces of glass. He warned me. You may face backlash. You may be painted as troublemaker. Legal exposure possible. Emotional cost real. And I felt a cold knot in my chest, but underneath, a spark. I'm ready, I said. Walking out of that office, I felt unsteady. The sky was overcast, clouds that didn't promise rain, but swallowed light. I imagined Dorothea's reaction, her voice echoing in hallways that weren't mine. Cold shoulders at holiday dinners, whispered versions of my name. I pictured her telling cousins, neighbors, she's making things up. I worried about Verity, if she'd be caught between versions. If Tom's family would choose silence or loyalty. At home, Tom was waiting in the living room. Clear morning light through windows. I showed him my folder. He reached out, hesitated, then said, "Be careful." I nodded, knowing he saw some of it now. But care and support are different things. Later, I called Odile, her voice warm and quick, reminding me I wasn't alone. I shared what Thaddeus said, the warnings, the fear. She listened without trying to fix. She helped me organize evidence, what to send, what to hold back. She said, "You don't need anyone's permission to own your story." I repeated it quietly to myself. I pulled out the journal I'd begun in CH2. I wrote, "I will not wait for permission to be seen." I sorted through what was public, what was private. A letter to family drafted but unsent. Deciding what could be revealed safely, deciding what belonged only to me. I filled pages with phrases I'd never said. They erased me. I deserve respect. No more hiding in their shadows. That afternoon, the mail arrived. My name on the envelope. My breath caught. I opened it carefully. Inside, a legal demand. A cease and desist, concerning images and messages I hadn't shared publicly. Don't distribute content. Remove references. Hands trembling, I held that paper. Hope and dread tangled together. I stared at it long after Tom left for work. I stared at my reflection in the glass. For the first time, I knew. Speaking up costs something. But silence costs more. I folded that demand, placed it beside my journal. In that moment, I felt something steady within me. Quiet strength. I got a message early that morning, just Dorothea's name popping up on my screen, summoning me to coffee with the family. It was casual sounding. It always is with her. I could feel the meaning behind it. This wasn't about warmth. It was about display. I put on the handkerchief mom-in-law gave me, held it at my throat under the collar. I gathered the folder in my jacket pocket, the screenshots, the letter, the evidence I'd never shown. Tom offered me coffee. I nodded, needing something solid. His eyes flickered with worry. He didn't speak. I drove to Savannah feeling every traffic light stop, the weight of expectations pressing in. When I arrived at that cafe, Dorothea was already there, smiling too broadly. The table looked set for more than a casual catch-up. Glasses polished, linens straightened, people shifting in chairs. "Nice of you to join," Dorothea said, voice smooth. Rachel smiled past her. The cousin from California raised a brow. Small talk about weather, mutual acquaintances. "It's so rare to see you these days," Dorothea said. "You've always kept to yourself." I swallowed. I replied, "People who listen more than speak sometimes watch too much." The tension paused, people caught in the moment. I kept calm. Inside, anger was flicking like broken glass. After dessert plates were cleared, Dorothea stood, clinked her water glass. "I want to thank everyone for keeping peace and honoring legacy," she said, her tone polished. "I know there's been talk about drama, about truths people aren't ready for." She didn't name me, but she said enough. Eyes turned to me. Rachel nodded. Others laughed. One person snickered about those who love too loud and offend with truth. My heart hammered. I squeezed my hands, holding back something fierce. I didn't speak. I watched them decide I was guilty before I even got a chance. Then Verity, Tom's niece, stood. Her voice soft, but clear. "I heard something," she said. "I heard Dorothea ask someone to make it look like I thought Silas was in control." The room hushed. I saw gasps, surprise. Verity kept going, planning big family things, making it seem like Silas volunteered for silence. Her cheeks pink. A tear maybe held back. She said she didn't want to lie, didn't want to carry what she overheard, but she did. I felt vindicated. I wasn't imagining whispers, punches in the dark. Someone saw, someone spoke. Dorothea laughed lightly. "Kids say things without context," she said. She turned to me. "Silas, maybe Verity's just upset you stopped smiling like everything's fine." Some in the group chuckled. It felt like poison. I stood up. My voice low but clear. There is no context where my silenced voice is humorous. People stared. The laughter stopped. Silence stretched. All eyes on me now. I stepped outside. Night air sharp against my skin. I breathed deep. I felt disoriented, angry, exposed, alive. I recalled the letter from mom-in-law. "You matter, even if others forget." It came back, its meaning clearer now than ever, not enough to keep me hidden. I thought through my next moves, press coming close to pouring gasoline on old wounds, media, emails, long calls to people I'd trusted. Exposing, yes, but with care. I re-entered the cafe. Everyone watching. I stood in front of them not to shame, but to show up. I wasn't pleading or cowering, just present, unignorable. I woke up just before sunrise. Something in the dim light felt different, heavier, dense with possibility. I sat up, reached for the folder on my nightstand, fingers tracing the edge like I was touching a promise. Inside, video clips, messages, photos, all lined up like witnesses. I dressed in simple pants and a blouse that fit like armor. I tied the hold-still handkerchief around my wrist. Tom stood at the door, silent. I nodded at him, no words. I was stepping into something I'd prepared for in my mind 1,000 times. When I posted the video compilation that afternoon, my pulse rattled every second. Screenshots of group chats with my name erased. Recordings of voices, laughter, conversations I'd never been part of. Memories, holidays, whispered apologies that were never meant for me. I sent it first to family with a message. This is just what's real. Then I shared on Facebook and Instagram. I watched reactions unfold. Some family members froze, others lashed out online. Outside friends messaged with empathy. There were hurtful replies, too much drama, stirring something for attention, but also support. Stream after stream of messages saying, "I see you. I'm sorry. Thank you for speaking up." The relief of truth showing itself felt like brittle glass breaking, sharp but cleansing. Later, I drafted an open letter to the family, addressed to Dorothea, Lucy, everyone involved. I quoted mom-in-law's letter, quotes I gathered. "We held still until we broke. I asked for acknowledgement, apology, respect moving forward." Tom read it. He shivered. When distribution began, via email thread, group messages, it rippled. Bennett looked torn. Dorothea's face hardened. Lucy said nothing. Cousins messaged passive apologies. Others told stories that defended their actions. I listened. I let them speak. I held my ground. Then came the estate documents, Edgar's will. And the one I'd only glanced at in family talk before. I discovered it named me heir, sentimental items, trust funds, things dear to mom-in-law's legacy. Dorothea had tried to alter parts behind the scenes, shift names, delay signatures. I brought it to Thaddeus, confirmed it was valid, that it had been stored in the safe she couldn't access without me. Family erupted. Some threatened, some begged, some demanded I drop everything to spare shame, but I refused. I wouldn't sign away truth. I wouldn't concede just to keep peace. That night, I was invited to a legacy dinner, an event Dorothea called to celebrate Edgar's memory. The hall was hushed when I walked in. I saw people straighten, look away, stare. I wore a simple dress, the handkerchief tied boldly around my wrist. I stood tall. I spoke, softly but clearly, not to accuse, not to dramatize, to say, I held still for too long, but even stones rise when water cuts through. Silence after. Some eyes glistened. Some slipped away. Applause, quiet, genuine, thin. Enough, enough. Driving home, I felt something strange. Peace tangled with grief. My body tired, but my mind awake. Tom reached for my hand. No words, just a squeeze. I thought of what I lost. Nieces, moments, trust. They were gone. But what I gained, voice, self-worth, I'd claimed. I wrote in my journal, this was the battle I didn't know I needed. And I believed it. Mornings changed. They stopped arriving with a tight chest and quiet dread. These days, I poured coffee like it was a kind of prayer. I'd stir slowly, let the sound of the spoon in the cup be louder than any noise the past tried to echo. I sat by the kitchen window, journal open, pen gliding, not to relive, but to release. In the garden, I'd pull weeds like I was pulling out old conversations, ones where I bit my tongue too long. There was peace now, not joy all the time, not reconciliation, but space. Bennett and I spoke more gently. We laughed without checking the room first. The space between us wasn't something we tiptoed around anymore. Family silence lingered. But it didn't wrap around my neck like it used to. When I saw old photos, I didn't wince. I studied them, curious how people could smile so widely while drawing invisible lines between themselves and me. And I said to myself, softly, sometimes peace is the absence of noise, not the presence of love. A week after Thanksgiving, I found a letter in our mailbox. No return name. Postmarked upstate. Handwritten, real ink. I paused on the porch, thumb tracing the edge. Something in me knew this wasn't from a lawyer or an enemy. Inside, folded carefully, was a letter from Verity. Her words weren't poetic. They didn't try to be. She wrote about being a teenager stuck in a house of pretend smiles and well-dressed silence. She said she always knew I was treated differently, that she overheard things, cruel jokes, whispered instructions. She apologized for not speaking sooner, said she was scared, unsure, too young to know how much it mattered. Then she said thank you, for looking her in the eyes when others looked through her, for being the one adult who never used her as a pawn. She said she was choosing differently, that she was stepping away from the legacy Dorothea tried to force on her. I sat with the letter in my lap for a long time, not crying, just breathing. It wasn't validation I felt. It was recognition. I existed. I had mattered. Quietly, but surely. I wrote her back the next day. Short, kind, open. I told her she was brave, that I didn't need anything from her. No alliance, no war, just to know she was okay. I left a door open. A soft door, not a loud one. On camera, I spoke like I was speaking to no one and everyone. We don't always win by changing the whole house. Sometimes just one room is enough. That afternoon, I went to the closet and pulled out the handkerchief. Hold still. I folded it once, then again, tucked it into a memory box, along with a photo of Mom-in-law and a dried lavender sprig from her garden. That chapter was closed, not erased, but no longer bleeding. I started volunteering at a women's center. I didn't share everything. Just enough to listen well. I saw them. Women caught in family traps, trying to untangle love from loyalty. I offered insight when asked. More often, I just sat with them. That felt like enough. I walked past places that once clenched my stomach, grocery aisles where I'd bump into cousins, church corners where whispers echoed. Now I walked through like they were just rooms with air, nothing more. One night, as Bennett and I were decorating the tree, my phone buzzed. A message on the old family thread, from Dorothea. Just a generic, happy holidays, hope everyone is well. I looked at it, didn't open it, didn't delete it, just let it sit. Bennett noticed. He asked gently, "Do you want to talk about it?" I shook my head. No need. The tree lights flickered in the reflection of the window. Soft music played. We added one last ornament, a ceramic star from our first Christmas together. I poured myself tea, sat in the armchair with my legs tucked up. Calm. Healing doesn't mean the damage never existed, I whispered. It means it no longer controls you. And that was enough.